Why do people love goth girls? And what exactly defines a goth girl? I have referenced Faustian man in other videos, and if I may dare to be controversial, I believe that goth girls are Faustian women, the feminine counterpart. I will also be so bold and declare that I am being fairly broad with my definition of goth girl. If you wish to gatekeep and defend your position as being trad goth girls that only listen to Christian death or whatever, go right ahead. But I'm including everyone from psychobilly gals to black metal chicks. This alt-girl archetype is the opposition to the trad girl in many respects. There is a yin and yang to these types, which is why they are both popular memes. While both of these archetypes are idealized and beloved, I believe people have a sense that the trad wife sort of archetype is rather fake. Even if it's appealing, it has an insincere quality to it. Do these women have any genuine belief in any sort of divinity? Or are they just in it for attention and money, and LARPing as the role? I think one appeal of the goth girl is authenticity. The admission of feeling dead inside and not caring about anything is present in the aesthetic. What you see is what you get. It's honest. You will find very seldomly a goth girl who is just LARPing and is in fact a totally neurotypical, happy lady who wants to bake apple pies for her husband and go frolicking through the meadows smiling. The goth girl is truth in advertising, for the most part. She wears her colors, or lack thereof, on full display. An inviting hazard sign. Nietzsche once said that men like two things, danger and play. And the reason that men like women is because women are the most dangerous plaything. I find this funny for many reasons, but one is because of a phenomenon called aposomatism. It is a reoccurring adaptation in nature where animals will contrast bright and dark colors to be extra visible and signal danger. These animals are usually either highly venomous or poisonous, and they are warning the predators that would otherwise try to eat them that it is not worth it because any attempt to do so will result in death. This feature is found in various types of frogs, snakes, spiders, and other species. I've heard some guys in the manosphere compare this aposomatism to colored-haired feminists, and how this is subliminally a message that they are toxic women that you should stay away from. I don't agree.
You what?
And trust me, wait a moment, my take here is based, not cringe, I promise. I think men are often enticed and intrigued by danger, and goth girls, if I may sim for women for a moment, are warding off unwanted advances from weaker men who are intimidated by their appearance. From her point of view, if a guy is afraid of some tattoos and piercings, then he is not worth her time anyway. I'll note that there is another adaptation that has evolved alongside aposomatism, and that is a copying of the warning colors associated with aposomatism, but without the poison or venom to back up the threat. This is the equivalent of pointing a gun at someone, but having no bullets. It can be an effective tactic if you trick the other person into thinking it's loaded, but falls flat if they call the bluff. However, most predators in the wild don't like to play Russian roulette, so these copycat animals continue to thrive to this very day. These animals are mimics. An example is this type of fly that has the yellow and black stripes of a wasp, but has no stinger. It has the warning colors that suggest that it is a creature that poses a threat, when in actuality it is a gun without bullets, a harmless creature. So for my comparison, I'd like to say that I believe that the goth girl is like the wasp, authentically edgy with the actual danger to play around with, whereas the blue hair college professor is the mimic wasp, trying to show you she's cool and dangerous, but not really convincing anybody. These mimic girls have even been called out in some memes. There is a trend of these wannabe tough girls that are inserted into a lot of modern media. Hilariously, they often have the Karen haircut, but just dyed some other color. These characters are considered cringy because they are all bark and no bite. They act in comedically masculine ways that would be utter cringe even if it were a man acting this way, and yet we're supposed to find them badass. There is also a trend nicknamed Spooky Girls. Spooky girls are girls that hopped on the train when goth girls became super popular. The girls who think they are quirky because Halloween is their favorite holiday. They drink pumpkin spice lattes and post pictures of cutesy ghosts online. These are also sort of mimic goth girls, though they are not quite as cringy as the other ones I have mentioned. There is an appeal to true goth girls. There's a funny statement that is sometimes said by guys, that being, I want a woman who will actually just kill me.
I love the kind of woman that will actually just kill me.
I think this sentiment expresses the lust for danger that I described earlier. For one more animal comparison, there is this species of frog who has this bizarre mutual relationship with a tarantula. The tarantula is much larger than the frog, and could easily just eat it, but it doesn't, because the frog eats the insects that would eat the spider's eggs. So the tarantula lets the frog just chill, and the froggo also benefits because the predators don't want to get anywhere near a tarantula. As counterintuitive as it seems, it can be beneficial to be near danger.
The closer we are to danger, the further we are from harm. It's the last thing he'll expect.
There is an allure to the type of girl who could literally kill you, but doesn't. An attraction to a woman who has a fire in her belly and actually possesses some will of her own, a force to be reckoned with. Now, these types of people are rare, and sure, maybe many goth girls don't really resemble this most of the time, but even seeing glimmers of this is something special. And I think the goth aesthetic captures this essence of feminine energy at its zenith. This is the ideal female body. You may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like. I know that many will scoff at this take, as many prefer the trad girl and will view that as perfection. I also know some are too cynical to have an appreciation for women and femininity in general, and I understand why. But I still implore you to be a fellow beauty enjoyer. Don't allow yourself to become too black-pilled. Okay, listen, I'm not going to say let people enjoy things, because I find that a tad cringy, but I am going to say that I plan on unapologetically enjoying what I want, regardless of the negative spin you can put on it. And if you are a fellow big titty goth GF enjoyer, I suggest that you do the same. I mean, you don't have to be a cringe lord or a coomer about it, but if you want to be Gomez Adams, then live your best life already. And even if you don't find your own Morticia, even the idea of her is something worth holding on to. Another thing I find interesting about goth girls is the fashion itself. What's fascinating is how it incorporates traditional fashion possibly better than trad girls do. Have a pretty girl in a Victorian era style dress? Just make the dress monochrome and give the girl some black lipstick, and now it's goth. But there's something different about the vibes put forth by these fashions. For the girl in the normal Victorian attire, it seems out of place. Unless you are in an Amish village or watching a play of Pride and Prejudice, you aren't going to see women naturally dressing like this. If you've seen someone dress like this in an everyday setting, wearing a big fancy hat and white gloves that go up to her elbows, and then you discover that there wasn't some special occasion, that she just dresses like that ordinarily, you'd probably think that she's autistic.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
It would be similar to why men look kinda silly wearing fedoras nowadays. It's fashion that has such a jarring disjunction between the time period it existed and our current era that it just seems unnatural to us. However, goth variations on these period outfits make them timeless. It's no longer a Victorian dress, it's a goth one now. Steampunk, I've heard jokingly thought of as goth discovering the color brown. It has a timeless quality because it combines the future with the past. It is the same with goth fashion itself, but it combines the past with the present. It acknowledges the disjunction. In a strange way, it still celebrates tradition, but it does so in a way that feels less like a LARPy imitation that's overly saccharine and much more authentic to us in the present, because it incorporates an element of irony into it. The pale faces and dark clothes make them look like a vampire, zombie, or other undead creature, almost as if they could pass as a person from the time period they are dressed as if they magically broke loose from their coffins. Goth fashion is a time capsule of a dead era, but since it acknowledges its deadness, it works.
It just works. All of this just works.
And this goes for other eras too. The gothabilly look takes a 1950s fashion that no one would wear unironically nowadays, but adds an undead twist that allows them to escape the "I was born in the wrong generation" look that a non-goth with beehive hair would definitely have. If a woman dresses like Marilyn Monroe, people wonder why they are dressing like a grandma. But if a woman dresses like Betty Page, then she is just a goth chick. I don't make the rules. Goth just has a timeless quality to it. I think this is also why certain genres of music like psychobilly and symphonic metal are heavily associated with goth fashion, as they are genres that take outdated music and make it fresh. I mentioned that goth chicks are Faustian women, and I mean that in multiple ways. They are in a way lamenting the death of God, so to speak, and are a celebration of the various eras of Western civilization. They are a fitting archetype of femininity in modernity. They sold their souls for rock and roll, but oddly remain a will that upholds a European spirit. And like it or not, this seems to be one of the few ways to celebrate the past and embrace traditional garb. So even though the goth look is seen as subverting traditional European aesthetics, in a bizarre way, goth girls are practically the only ones keeping it alive. And yes, even though a pasty white face is a staple of the goth style, I know it is quite popular even among non-Europeans, particularly in Asia and the Americas. It may be an example of cultural cringe that leads them to embrace the goth life, but I welcome them nonetheless. And I promise I didn't make this entire video to say that brown goth girls are honorary Aryans, as based of a take as that might be. I am just exploring all of the nuances here. Goth girls are complex, and I'm just diving into the mystery. If the trad girl is the pre-modern woman, the goth girl is the modern woman. They are the accurate manifestation of femininity in this fallen world. Let us admire the bioluminescence of decomposition. There is still beauty in modernity. We do not need to forsake it and lament long-gone eras. We can celebrate how they still exist in residual forms today. Our acculturation continues.